Happy, happy Monday. Happy start to the week. Happy start to the week. I think I'm good. Let me just double check. Make sure there's no problems and things. Oh, yeah, yeah. The mic is working because I can hear myself on the other device there. All right. But hey, everybody, I'm super, I'm thankful. I'm grateful. I'm excited. I'm excited to talk about this particular subject because it is a subject that I believe we've mistaken for other things. And so we're going to talk more in depth about how becoming requires mourning. It requires mourning, not mourning as in wake up, it's the AM, but mourning as in grief. There is a measure of grief that we go through as we transition, as we grow, as we stretch. There is such a measure of grief that we go through. And I want to talk more about that today. I want to talk more about that. I want to get into it because we have to talk about this mourning more. Mourning the former routine that you had, maybe more flexibility that you had, mourning trying to cope, trying to figure life out without your former coping mechanisms. These are all ways that we mourn, right? It does not feel good when you can't reach for the things that soothed you, the things that typically help to numb the pain, the frustration that you're no longer allowed to utilize. That is a measure of grief. That is a measure of mourning. It does not feel good trying to figure it out a different way. It does not feel good. The type of sacrifice that it takes for the different you, the new you that you're becoming, that type of sacrifice costs. That type of sacrifice costs. That type of dedication costs. That type of difference does not feel good, right? So I want to talk about becoming. Becoming requires mourning. You will likely be mourning. You will likely be mourning the old you. You'll likely be even mourning and grieving that the little girl you, the young man you. I'm gonna start with a testimonial. I had a mini, hopefully my face and stuff look okay. But I had a little mini session with my BFF, who is also a therapist. And typically I'm therapizing her, but she therapized me today. That's my word, therapize. She therapized me. I said, she had another meeting to be on. She was like, but I'll take the time. So, but I had to think about what is the thing that causes me to sometimes feel inadequate or sometimes feels like, who am I to be doing that? Who am I to be coaching people? Who am I to be doing some of the things that I know God is telling me to do? Because otherwise I absolutely will not be doing that, which that is a whole nother video, a whole nother Mature Me Monday. There are people who want to do coaching and, see it as a thing to do, see it as a money grab. They see it as a measure of notoriety. And let me tell you something. That's not my story. That is not my testimony. I did not wake up and say, I'm going to coach because I want to do it for fun, or I want to do it for more money, or I want to do it because I feel like I'm supposed to, or I'm supposed to speak. It was something that this is years in the making for me to even come on the screen and begin to talk in this way. Coaching, mentoring, all that stuff, being a leader, leading leaders, is something I've done behind the scenes. I've done in my life for quite some times. I do with people who are in proximity to me. And so me coming out and being like, yeah, I'm gonna be a coach and I'm gonna take it online and I'm gonna be an inspirational person and I'm going to, try to help people. That was not my thing. That was my thing, not out front, not out loud. It was always something where, all right, God, all right, I'm called to do it and stuff like that. And the people that you put in my path to do it to and to do it with, I will absolutely surrender. I will give you my yes, and I will certainly do it. But coaching on these internet streets and putting it out there in that way was not something I was at all interested in. Not at all. Guys, I'm a realtor. And so me marketing for my realtor services, I became comfortable with, because that made sense in my head, because it's just like, yeah, I'm selling houses. So this is something that I have to do. But to do it on the strength of this is for ministry, because it's what God told me to do, that in and of itself was challenging. I had no interest. This took years to come into fruition. It took years for me to step out and accept the call of my becoming. To accept that call of becoming. To accept the fact that you know who I called you to be. You know who I called you to. And a part of that call is doing this. I had no interest, y'all. And so when people kind of, I had to mourn what it looks like to do this. I had to mourn what it would take to do this. I had to mourn that. And I'm still figuring it out. I'm in this becoming season or becoming series for a reason, because I too am becoming, right? And I've talked about this before. We become in front of people. We don't, there is a season where we become in the cave. We become in the dark. We become behind closed doors. There is a season for that. That does happen. That does absolutely take place. But a lot of our becoming is always going to be in front of people. As much as we steal away, as much as we I'm looking at my thing move back there. I'm like, what's going on back there? All right, okay, it's just a little air going on. Okay, praise God. So much of our becoming is certainly and absolutely going to happen in front of people. It's going to happen in front of people. And then you're called to people, you're called to communities, you're called to groups, you're called to nations, which is groups of people. Even if it's not an actual country, you have governmental authority over something, even if it's not the government. You're called to this, and God says, all right, come out of hiding. Come out of there, because you are the one that I'm anointing to do it in front of people. That takes a level of vulnerability. People think or come into wanting to influence people as if there is a measure of notoriety. And maybe it is on some level, in some way, shape, or form. But a lot of it, you are opening the door to be flawed in front of people. And I know that seems countercultural, because it's like, no, you're supposed to be perfect in front of people, but that's not reality. That's not even biblical. And so I'm going off on this tangent to say, back to my story, back to my testimony. Again, we're talking about becoming requires mourning. And I had to have a mini counseling session with my best friend because I was going over the idea of some of the things that we face when we're functioning, when we're doing what we're supposed to do. And even though we're doing it, right, there is what I like to call background noise. There is verbiage that can come in our head. And it may not, that background noise, for some of us, we can all be in a stage where that background noise is leading the charge. The negative thoughts, the thoughts that, discount you, you like to discount yourself. But then it gets to a place where, hey, those thoughts are not leading the charge, but they still come up and they still are in the back of my mind. They still are whispering. And so even though I'm still moving forward in faith, I'm still moving forward in boldness, I'm still hearing the echoes of those thoughts. And so I was processing through and talking out loud through some of the echoes that I hear, even though I'm moving in faith and I'm moving in obedience and I'm moving in surrender and I'm moving in purpose and I'm moving in boldness. I was talking through those inner thoughts and the origin of that. And I was like, I have to be honest. I'm like, I come from a lineage, a mother who, I mean, talk about me times 4. And I remember us having conversations and hearing her conversations. And so this is a secondhand, I'm giving you some secondhand what was caught in my developmental years. And so as we know, we get a lot of who we are from our parents. We get it from there, good, bad, or indifferent. And even how, and that's why it's so important as parents, even how we have these dialogues, even though we're talking about ourselves, we don't understand the secondary impact that it can have on our children. And so for me, I would hear my mom discount herself. I would hear my mom, not step into places and spaces that she was deserving of, that she should be in, because of how she viewed herself, because of her worth. And I would hear those conversations, and I would hear the conversation because she was talking to me. She would talk to me about how she didn't think, what she had to offer was enough. And I mean, my mom was bigger than life, personality wise. I mean, stylish, stylish, fly, all of it I get from her, much of it. Much of it, and my own unique expression, but much of it I get from her. And so when I would hear her have these conversations, I mean, a teacher from a work ethic standpoint, amazing. From a ministry, church standpoint, amazing. I aspired to be like her in so many ways. And so when I heard her have these conversations, I didn't realize that her internal dialogue that she was expressing externally would have such an impact on my internal dialogue. I didn't realize it. And so that's this kind of secondhand and direct influence that I can take away and I can pinpoint. And then the other part was, in my, I have siblings on both sides, my mom's side, on my dad's side. But on my mom's side, I have one who is my eldest sister. And, it would be these comparisons, right? And so my mom and my sister were more similar as far as expressing themselves and clothing and being girlies and all that other stuff. And how they expressed it and how they valued it and how they went about it was different from me. And so we would have these conversations where it's just like, well, Danielle, she don't even like that stuff. That's her name, y'all. Or Danielle, she don't even like that stuff. But she not even into such and such. She ain't even into that. And she don't even like that. And what's up with that? That's weird. And da 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 da. So I would have those conversations, and it's just like, well, yeah, but maybe I'm not, maybe I'm not into that stuff. Maybe I'm not, the cool kid. I would have these conversations. I would have them. I didn't realize until today that, man, your lens and how you view yourself is still a bit foggy. It's not as clear as it should be. It's not, how I view myself is like these glasses. Listen, these glasses, child, I need some new ones. But if you can see the film, it got some scratches on these glasses. It's a little filmy. It's mainly clear. It's mainly clear. I don't know if they can see it on TikTok. You can see it a little bit. They're not totally clear, okay? And some of us are walking around with lenses of who we are that are foggy. Got scratches. I don't know if you can see the scratches a little bit. Foggy glasses. This is how we view ourselves. This is how we, and we show up and people view us as something completely different than how we view ourselves, how we value ourselves. And so I was definitely challenged today to, we gotta, we got to fix that. We got to fix that perception. We got to fix, we have to cut at the root what that looks like. We have to, and I'm circling back to my topic today, which is becoming requires mourning. I had to look at mourning and grieving that girl who thought those thoughts. Our conversation, that's why I was like, hopefully my makeup and stuff okay, because I ain't check it that good. My conversation caused me to weep, caused me to cry, because I said, oh, that girl who picked up some dialogue, some internal dialogue that is not indicative of who she is not indicative of who the God, that's shaped by someone else's perception of themselves. A model was made there, and it's no fault, listen, we're a parent. I have, 4 altogether. We're trying to figure it out. So it's no fault of my mom. She just was expressing herself, telling her truth. But we don't realize the impact that can have on the people around us. We don't realize, even when we're just talking about ourselves, how it models how I treat myself, how it models how I can mishandle myself. And that's not biblical. That's not the model. God doesn't want us to have negative thoughts about ourselves. He wants us to see ourselves the way that he sees us. He wants us to believe in ourselves the way that he believes in us, the way that he has faith for us. And so that's my little spiel that took a second to get through. But I wanted to share that testimony because we are always going to be continually challenged. What is the origin of this stuff? And me personally, coming on here talking about this is so helpful to me, number one. And I continue to say that. If it ain't helping anybody, it's helping me. And any ministry, anything that we do should always hit us first anyway, right? And so I, talking about this, I had to mourn the girl that was thinking these things and that was standing as a bystander and not realizing that she was soaking up what it is to have negative talks and what it is to not believe in yourself and what it is to be like, oh, because of this, I don't think I'm that. Deep breath. Selah. Selah. Had to grieve for her. Had to grieve for her. And so I want to challenge you as I start to tie up this conversation to take moments to breathe from the diaphragm and to really think through what things you need to mourn in this season while you're becoming. What people, what habits, what ideas, what false teaching, what bad practices, whatever it is that you have to break away from in order to pursue and be who God is calling you to be. I want you to start thinking through those things. Whatever pops up in your mind outside of what I'm saying, I want you to jot it down. I want you to type it in the chat. I want you to be vocal, because these are things that we don't realize is truly holding us back from being and doing the things that we are called to do, who we are to become. It's stifling us. It really is. It will cause us to ride these waves of I think I can, I know I can, maybe not so much, maybe not so much. It'll have us feeling like I was so sure just 2.5 seconds ago, and I'm not so sure now. I was so sure for about 4 weeks straight. And then now I don't know. I don't know how sure I am. Okay. Oh, let me read this comment. Thanks so much. The background noise is something else. The background noise is something else, but we have to kill it with God's word to remind us who he called us to be. I thank God he used you to give me that push to get back to it even harder. Thank you so much. That's Deja. Thank you so much for sharing that. That background noise, man, that is something that, I like to say, shut up, devil. But sometimes, and this is heard, this is not a new saying, but, sometimes our inner me is the enemy, our inner dialogue, our inner conversations with ourselves. Now, can the enemy plant seeds? Absolutely. Can he start trying to play with your mind? Absolutely. And then you come into a space where, okay, maybe the enemy can no longer do that. And now it is us. It is the little person on the inside of us. It is the instances that we begin to recall, like, where did this come from? Why do I feel like that? Why do I feel like I don't belong? Right? Where did it come from? Why? So that we can begin to be like, you got to go. This got to be taken up from the roof. This can no longer have, power over me. We got to get to a point where enough is enough. And we have to say, this no longer has power over me. I refuse. Right? We have to take back our voice. We have to take back our life. We have to take back these things, because what else is there? We don't have to be tormented. We don't have to be tormented by the negative thoughts. We don't have to be tormented by what ails us. We don't have to be tormented by these things, right? And so, yeah, I definitely wanted to talk through that real quick for my introduction. And so let's get into it right now. I was trying to fix Facebook always doing me dirty. But anyhow. All right. Why does becoming hurt so much? We celebrate elevation. We post the wins. We announce the promotion. We share the glow up. Okay. But we rarely talk about the grief attached to growth, because becoming requires mourning. And sometimes the pain you're feeling isn't resistance, it is grief. Or the pain that you are feeling, the resistance of that is grief, right? And so grieving, it's grieving. What are we grieving? We're grieving the original plan. We're grieving the original timeline. We're grieving the how. We're grieving the former identity, even the version of you that kept you safe, right? And so becoming is not just addition, it is also subtraction. Okay, you can't become without losing something. It costs you to become. It costs you to emerge. It costs you to start that new business. It costs you to pursue relationships and be with vulnerability, with authenticity, with honesty. It costs you to even approach it as a mature person. It costs you pride. This ain't marriage ministry time right now, but I'm just saying, we're not talking relationships, but it costs you to be in relationships with people. Your pride has to go. Your preference has to do a dance. I'm not going to say it has to always be put on the back burner, but it absolutely can't be front and center stage every single time. It costs. There is always a subtraction that takes place. It may be, it might have, it felt good to, be angry and blow up at people and all that other stuff. But that's not something you can take through your life if you're trying to grow, if you're trying to progress, if you're trying to earn more money, if you're trying to have meaningful relationships, if you're trying to move through ministry, if you're trying to do these things at higher heights. be more and more progressive. Now, if you want to stay the same, that's absolutely fine. If you want to stay the same, this is not a live video for you. I'm gonna tell you right now, it's not. But if you're one that's like, I'm not liking where I'm at. I'm not liking who I am. I'm not liking this. This doesn't feel like I am moving as my authentic self. Why is becoming related to, honestly, me with Coach Dee? Why is it related to being your authentic self? It's related because it is a continued discovery and a continued immersion of you being your true authentic self. It's always a rediscovery. There's always a redefining and helping you to unlock the truest form, the most authentic form of yourself. When you're able to do that, getting permission to be yourself, that goes out the window. People pleasing, the guilt, the condemnation that we feel just because, I said no, or, no. I said no and I meant it. Because it's not in alignment with my season. Why do we say no to things? It may not be in alignment with my season. It may not be in alignment with my mission. It may not be in alignment with my morals, my spiritual beliefs. It may not be in alignment with just my time at the moment. Right? And so that's why becoming is always going to be a callback to living honestly, living authentically, being yourself and what that looks like. And being yourself, being authentic, being honest does not have to be punitive. It should not be punitive. And I'm going off on tangents. I'm sorry. It should not be punitive for you to be you. Injurious for you to be you. It just is. Ooh, I'm sorry. It just is. That makes me excited because what did the Lord say? I am that I am. That's it. That's it. And that's all. And when you are showing up as image bearers of Christ, of God, we don't got to make all these excuses, accommodations, reasons. And, if it's in alignment, great. If it's not, that's it. It's a period. No, with a period. Okay. That's another lesson for another time. Becoming is not just an addition. It is a subtraction. You're going to have to not just add some things in becoming, but also some things has to go. It has to go. So you are not just growing, you are also losing. Every transformation includes loss. When you become, you lose the comfort of who you used to be, the coping mechanisms that once worked, the comfort of who you used to be. So that means you might have to wake up earlier. That means you might have to go to bed later. I don't know what your mission is, but I don't know what that business is, but I don't know what your ministry is, but I don't know what it takes to be in a relationship, but the comfort of who you used to be has to go. For all of those of you who are single, I don't know why I'm on relationships. You gotta, the comfort that you used to have, it adjusts. It adjusts. The coping mechanisms that used to work, that once worked, doesn't serve who you are emerging to be, who you're becoming to be. You have to mourn these things. The identity that fit in certain rooms, that identity doesn't work anymore. Even if that old version of you doesn't serve your future, it is still familiar. And again, we talked about this before. Familiarity feels safe. It feels safe. That's why we're mourning it. Even if listen, I can remember there are a lot of things that I'm cool with not doing. Right. I'm cool with not being. There's plenty of things. But there are times when you can look back and be like, man, if I could just, back in the day, I used to just, and that used to feel fine. Now it won't feel fine now because that was guilt. You feel guilty. But I'm just saying, it can feel safe, like, oh, hey, this served me. This once used to take the edge off. This once made me feel comfortable, right? Even in how we respond. You know what I mean? Before, yeah, I used to give everybody a piece of my mind. And that made me feel good in the moment. And it might even make you still feel good.
It's 2 p.m. Hope you're having a good day.
Thank you, Google.
Want to go for a walk?
No, I don't want to go for a walk right now. Thank you, Google. It may have felt good then. It may. But is that going to work for you in this season now? Okay, these are questions that we have to ask ourselves. Again, familiarity feels safe, and sometimes we miss who we were, even if who we were was the smaller, lesser version of ourselves. Let's be honest. Sometimes it feels better to be the smaller, lesser version of ourselves. It doesn't feel good to be mature. It doesn't feel good to take the high road. It doesn't always feel good. Okay? It doesn't feel good to have instability if you're a business owner, if you're an entrepreneur. X behind now. It don't feel good. It don't. All right, mourning your original plan. Let's talk about this. Some of the deepest grief isn't about people. It's about plans. We had it all. Where's my people who are a bit more controlling? Where my folk who are a little bit more controlling? It's about the plans, the pictures that we had, how it would happen, and who would walk with you, what the timeline would be. I was supposed to do this by now. I was supposed to have this by now. I was supposed to be this by now. What the outcome would look like. And when God shifts the how, it feels like a loss. I'm going to say it again. Some of our deepest grief is about the plans. And we have us having, I'm talking to us having a picture of how it would happen, who will walk with us, what the timeline would be, and what the outcome would look like. And when God shifts the how, it feels like loss. And even if the promise is still intact, even if the calling hasn't changed, even if the assignment hasn't changed, sometimes, many times, all of the time, really, we must mourn the version of the promise that we imagine. You must mourn the version of the promise that you imagine. Okay? Now, I always like to have Bible to back it up. Let's talk about it. A biblical example of this is Abraham and Lot, uncle and nephew. Let's talk about Abraham. Genesis 12:1. The Lord said to Abraham, or Abram at this time, go from your country, your people, and your father's household to the land I will show you. How many of y'all can relate to anything like this? I remember this text helped me in transitioning. And I was like, no, I don't want to leave my peeps. Even though I know I need to. I don't want to. Wait a minute. I don't like this. The Lord said to Abram, go from your country, your people, your father's household to the land I will show you. Not only do you want me to leave what I know was familiar, what I grew up with, my culture, my foundation. You're not even telling me that where I'm going. God, you ain't even telling me where I'm going. God told Abram to leave his land, his people, his household, his familiarity. But when Abram left, he didn't leave completely. He didn't leave all that stuff completely, because what he do? He brought Lot. Let's go to Genesis 12:4. So Abram went as the Lord had told him, and Lot went with him. Now, the word don't say how exactly all that came to be, because we saw what God said for him to do. How that translate into bring a lot. How his nephew get in there? Sometimes we partially obey. What we step into becoming, but we bring familiarity with us. Lot represents what's familiar. Lot, the nephew, his family, represents comfort. Lot represents the part of your old life that you're not ready to release. And notice that this Lot eventually chooses Sodom, okay, which is a place that he was at, that he went to live. Lot chooses what looks prosperous, but what is corrupt. What you was holding on to didn't even choose you. Won't choose you. Ain't thinking about you. Not thinking about choosing you. Genesis 13:10-11, and later Abraham has to rescue him. Right? Genesis 14:14 says Abraham keeps going back. He keeps fighting battles connected to what he carried forward. And isn't this like us? God calls us forward, but we keep rescuing old versions of ourselves. Old versions. So I want us to use Lot as what is our lot? And that's a whole listen. Sorry, y'all. I'm getting excited. Can I just do a quick? Can I just do a quick dive into what that is? What is Lot? A lot. A small stone or pebble or stick used to make decisions, determine God's will, or divide property. Lot also refers to a portion, inheritance, or destiny assigned by God. It's just his actual name is a different meaning, which is covering or veiling. It's just, you got to leave the old covering. You got to leave it. What does Lot represent in your life? Does it represent a relationship? Does it represent a person? Does it represent a community? Does it represent a business? Does it represent a job? Does it represent a family member? Does it represent your mindset? Does it represent your discipline, your old patterns, of discipline, your old thought patterns? Does it represent old insecurities? Does it represent old coping mechanisms? Good, bad, or indifferent. Not all coping mechanisms are inherently sinful, but it can turn sinful because we're doing it too much, because we're using it as coping mechanisms. Let me say it right. Because they are familiar, even when they're unhealthy, even when they're limiting, even when they cost us peace. Okay? Because we like to go back to it. We like to go back to old thoughts, old patterns, old relationships, old securities, old coping mechanisms, because they are familiar, even though they're unhealthy, even though they're limiting, and even though they cost us peace. All right. Next part here, becoming requires release. Abraham couldn't fully step into that covenant identity of father of many nations while clinging onto old attachments. Eventually, there had to be a separation. Genesis 13:9 says, "Is not the whole land before you? Let's part company." Becoming sometimes requires separation, not because you hate what was, but because you cannot carry it where you are going. And this separation can feel like grief. You can't take it with you. It's got to go. Okay? Why does it feel so disorienting? When you shed identity, it feels like death because it is. It's not a physical death, but it is absolutely a psychological death. I was about to say physiological. That's not it. Psychological death. The death of smaller thinking, the insecure version, the people pleaser, the trauma anchored self. And when you become that, let's insert blank. When you become blank, let's insert here, that leader, that healed woman, that elevated version of yourself, you have to learn how to exist there. You have to learn how to maintain there. Okay? That space feels foreign. And foreign feels uncomfortable. Okay? Foreign feels uncomfortable. Breathe. Breathe. Okay. Mourning is not regression. Let's talk about this. Grief does not mean you want to go back. It doesn't always mean that you want to go back, but it does mean that you are honoring the transition. You can thank your old self for surviving without bringing him or her into the next season. You can acknowledge the plan you had without forcing God to execute it your way. You can love familiarity without living there. It might be nice, but no. That's not it. That's not where we are. That's not for you. Okay? I got some questions for you. If you are brave enough, DM me some of these answers. DM me, okay? DM me if you are braver enough. Put it in the chat. Put it in the comment section if you are braver enough. But absolutely, I would love to hear feedback on these questions, your take on these questions, or just take these questions and do some self-reflection, put it in your journal, do it for you, talk to God about it, talk to a friend about it, do all that. Ask yourself, what lot am I still carrying into my becoming? What lot? Lot blank. What are you carrying? What are you still carrying into your becoming? What old version of me am I rescuing repeatedly? What old version of me am I rescuing repeatedly? What plan do I need to mourn? What plan do I need to mourn? What identity shift feels heavy right now? What identity shift feels heavy right now? Okay. Drop in the chat, mourning, if you feel like this. Or releasing if you're choosing movement. Okay. Drop in the chat, mourning or drop in there releasing. I am rounding this out to a close. Let's talk about it. Becoming requires mourning. You are not weak because it hurts. You are not off track because it feels disorienting. You are grieving the old so you can carry the new. And sometimes the pain isn't punishment. It is proof that you are transforming. forming. Okay. That is all for today's and this week's Mature Me Monday. It's honestly me with Coach Dee with authenticity mixed assignment. Listen, let me know, DM me. Let me know that you hearing me, that you liked it, that it blessed you. Because we're out here. And I want to talk through these intricacies of becoming, of emerging, of being your authentic self, because these are things that hold us back. We don't realize the nuances. And the reason this channel or this channel, this platform was built is because people really struggle to show up as themselves. And it hinders them from being the fullness of who they are called to be in every area of their life, in their relationships, in their job, their work, their business, in their families, at ministries, whatever it is, as a leader. We really struggle. It really hinders us from being the fullness of who we're supposed to be. And if it hinders us from being the fullness of who we're supposed to be, then I'm certainly sure that it puts a cap on living and receiving the fullness of what we're supposed to have and how we're supposed to live. It puts a cap on it. Okay. You can't get the fullness in relationship if, we're struggling with these things. We feel like we got to keep one eye, we got to walk around cross-eyed all the time because we got to keep our eye on the ball that we feel like will drop in our relationships, at our jobs, in our businesses, at our ministries. We're kept in tapping into the fullness of power that we have, the fullness of our gifting, because we're straddling, we're going in between, we're mourning, we're grieving, we're always in grief. We have this veil over us, a veil of mourning, a veil of grief, because we're really tethered to the versions, the mindsets, all of these different things that leaves us stagnant. Maybe not in every area. Maybe not in every area. Maybe it's not keeping us stagnant by way of action and momentum. But what if it is? It's like, well, I still do the thing. Like I hear the background noise, or I hear the, but just because we hear it, just because we hear the background noise, doesn't mean it's not slowing down our momentum. Because what if we could move at a pace that's more effective if we wasn't being dragged down by a lot of these things that we're holding on to? Yeah, we're still doing the thing, but if it feel like we got a club foot, if it feel like we got baggage on us, it's going to slow down our momentum. And just because we're used to that type of pacing doesn't mean it's the pace that we're supposed to truly be going. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. Okay. All right. Okay. Listen, that's all I have for today. I thank you so much for joining me today. I appreciate it. Thank you for those who watch live. Thank you. Also, put in the chat if you're watching live or if you're watching the replay. If you're the replay gang, I love it. If you're watching live, that's fantastic as well. Look for some things I'm going to be coming up. I'm going to be rolling out because it's coming. Okay. And so I hope to talk to you all soon. Again, honestly, me with Coach Dee. Follow me on all the social media platforms. I am Coach Dee _DJM. I'm all over the place as you are seeing me on whatever respective platform that you are on. You can also follow me on other platforms as well. If you want to watch the replay, of course, and you're not watching me on YouTube, you can go to my YouTube channel. Again, it's over there. Boom. There we go. Wherever it is. It's over there. Okay. TikTok, the replay is on the YouTube streets. at I am Coach D _ DJM. Okay. Bye, guys. Enjoy the rest of your Monday. Talk to you soon.